Hello everybody, my name is Brian Choper and welcome to segment 2 of The Business of Music. People learned who I was last week, but I'll recap because maybe you haven't heard that segment at all. My name is Brian Choper. First and foremost, I am a musician. I'm a drummer, and that's what I do before anything else. But I also own Big Shot Records and Washington's Entertainment Connection. And Washington's Entertainment, which we acronym as WEC, is an agency for any one of you who have a party out there and want a band for your party. You can go to entertainmentdc.com and learn about that. You have Big Shot Records, which basically is our label for bands that we have signed, that we're proud of, and that we want to feature in festivals, concerts, tours, and fundraisers. And we'll get into a lot of how we do fundraising too. And two of the bands that are involved with Big Shot Records are my bands, Nexus Rock Band and the Brian Choper Jazz Project with Peter Cannella. And our first segment talks a lot about that. But again, I'm a musician first and foremost. And for more on me, you can go on the web. Mickey, why don't you give a little bit of information about who you are?
My name is Mickey Hill of Support Live Music DC. I'm a photographer of all events, but more recently I started Support Live Music DC. And that is to highlight the artists, the vocalists, musicians, and other entertainers in the Washington, D.C. area to let the venues and the vendors know that all of your musical needs can be met through our local artists. This is my way of giving back and showing my appreciation for the magnanimous amount of talent we have in the D.C. area. We have some of the finest musicians, vocalists, music teachers, and music mentors in the entire U.S. And my job, as I have taken it on, is to let everyone know. And so if you want to see some of what I've done, you can go to Facebook, Mickey Hill, Support Live Music DC, and you can see your friends and neighbors and teachers and mentors right there on Facebook performing along with photographs and a little narrative about them and just a briefing of who they are and what they do and the type of genre of music that they perform.
So we had to end the last episode because we ran out of time. We were talking about bands in the basement, and I was talking about the fact that you had asked what a band in the basement was.
Yes.
And I began to go into. I think this is actually one of the most important things to understand about the music business, which is that when a band's in the basement, usually you have a bunch of people who are musicians, and the musicians are thinking, who do we need to be in our organization? In other words, you need a melody instrument, you usually need a vocalist, you need hopefully more than one primary instrument, so you've got, a guitar, hopefully a keyboard or something like this, and you need a bass because you need to cover the rhythm section. And so you recruit these people to come in to your home or to the basement or wherever you're going to be, and you are listening for the first time, performing together, trying to see if the chemistry's there, trying to see if the music sounds good together, trying to see if everyone's on the same level as everybody else musically, trying to see if everyone has the same style and plays the same way. Now, a lot of musicians will think about this ahead of time and think, who do I want in my band? And they'll call those people, and they'll want the rhythm section, and they'll want these key singers and key performers. But until you put them all together, you don't know what you have. So, along with your question, Mickey, about the band in the basement, comes the issues of marketing.
Yes.
You don't even know what you've got yet, let alone marketing. You don't know if you have chemistry. You don't know if you have the right sound. You don't know if everyone's going to like the same music. You don't know if everyone's going to like everyone in the room. So you're spending a few hours at minimum just getting to know one another and thinking, do I want to do this? That's actually what the players are thinking. Do I want to do this? Do I like these guys? Do I feel it happening? And I've seen some very fantastic jam sessions, what I call jam sessions in the basement, where one of the players says, I just didn't feel it. Mm-hmm. So either it breaks up, or they find someone else, and they start going through musical chairs where they try to figure out how to cover all of the players that they wanted to have. On a more advanced way to describe this, on my band, the Chopra Jazz Project with Peter Canella, we initially had myself, we had Peter, and I didn't know I'd be drumming for it. We brought in a couple of other drummers who didn't understand the style. And after listening to them and interviewing drummers and auditioning other drummers, because I didn't really have time, I didn't think I was going to be doing that, I realized I have to learn to do this because these other drummers don't understand what to do. They don't understand what to do. They're not big band drummers, and they're not rock drummers, and they're not jazz drummers, and this music is none of that. Mm-hmm. It's a hybrid. Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett, all this stuff is a hybrid. And that's for a whole nother discussion in itself. But we went through, the only people from the original group that we had brought in to that band were Ephraim Wolfolk, Harry Appleman. So you had the bass player and the piano player, and Peter. The horn player, the primary horn player, did not understand what to do. The drummers did not understand what to do, and the first concert we did as a 5-piece band, because we couldn't find all the right players to make all this work in a way that we knew they understood it, and it evolved over a year and a half into the players that it is now. Now that's a complicated way of describing a band in the basement, because we had to have that product before we could promote it.
Right.
We also had to get the charts together and everything else. Now, there's very little difference between that and what a band in the basement question is. So let's say you're talking about a rock band. You bring everyone into the basement, you're listening to each other, you're trying to figure if it's right, and there may be a lot of transformations that go on in that band. A band member may say, I really like this, but the other band members don't want to work with them. Okay? So once you get beyond that and you have chemistry, then you start thinking about what music you want to play. Now, you always have the tug of war between the band that wants to play a certain type of music and people who are coming to them saying, oh, once you've learned how to play, once you're ready, I'd like you to play my party. Okay, which is just your network of friends. And the nice part about that is your confidence goes up. Oh, hey, people are interested in us. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you've got that going on. Then you have to decide, but they want top 40, and we are classic rock. So do we change what we want for the party, or do we ignore that and go in the direction that we had started out in? And if we change, are the band members going to be happy? Because they may say, this isn't what I signed up for, I don't want to do this. Now, a lot of them think, well, if there's money in it, if there's a business in it, then I'll do it because, this is the business of music. At the same time, does the demand sabotage the nature of what the band is all about? And these are real issues that happen with every band I've ever seen start from the basement.
But wouldn't the band make more money and have more shows and be more prosperous if they did a mixed genre of music?
Let me tell you what happened in the rock band, my rock band. And this is something that I saw from the ground up. I envisioned with my Nexus rock band to have a guitarist, a keyboard player, a bass player, myself on drums, and the guitar would play vocals, and then we would have a background vocals. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we had 5 people. Okay, we couldn't find the right chemistry in anyone but the bass, the drummer, and the guitar, and myself. Okay, so we had a trio. I assumed that this would never work because I just didn't feel in my head when I was listening to what I wanted to do as a classic rock band, I couldn't hear what I wanted. But as the band got better and better rapidly, the band got so tight that we actually filled in the gaps of what I wasn't hearing before. And as a trio, we sound like a 5-piece band in a lot of ways. But we started out as classic rock, and we were steadfast on doing classic rock. All the while, people were coming to us and saying, "Wonderful, but can you play some power ballads? Can you play some Journey? Can you play some of this and that?" And all of a sudden, the public was trying to morph us down into a partying band. And then I said, "No, you don't want a party band. You want a wedding band. So you're looking for that kind of stuff. That's not what we do." So we were steadfast on the idea of keeping it to classic rock. Mm-hmm. So I began to wonder whether it was going to be accepted because, it's kind of a tribute band to classic rock. We started playing some of the clubs. We had people coming out to party. Some of them said they loved it. Some of them said, "Oh, we want more party music." But after we did it 3 or 4 times and were determined to stay on our route, these people started coming out in groves, okay? And they were starting to support this. And the last time we did an event, they were on the dance floor for 3 hours, which proved to me that sometimes you need to stay the course and not follow what everyone else is asking you to do. There's enough bands out there who do weddings and parties. We are not that. We are a classic rock band. And so sometimes you have to have a little faith in your instincts to continue on that. And other times you're dragged into what the public think they want.
Right.
Okay? Does that answer your question?
It does.
It at all? You also asked about marketing.
Right. The band in the basement, when do they start to market? Do they wait until they have booked the venue of their dreams or the venue that they consider as desirable, such as the Howard Theater or DAR Constitution Hall, or do they start with the first show, the first gig that they have?
Bands usually do not know what band managers do. Okay, and I can say that in the case of both of my bands, I am the band manager and I'm the drummer. So you always have a little bit of friction because the band says, "I want great gigs." I am afraid of booking that because I'm thinking this band needs to polish on this and polish on that, or I want to have more of a following. No matter how good you are, unless you play out, nobody's gonna know about you. I mean, knowing about you means you've performed and people have heard you. You can't advertise a band on paper or on YouTube and get the same thing, the same reaction as you performing live. So you book the events, the gigs, where you want people to see you. So actually, sometimes the club is a good way because you can control who you advertise to for people to come into that club. If you're booking a concert in a theater, usually that theater's doing the promotion, and the people who have their regular season tickets or whatever come in but if you're doing a club, you get to promote your band to the people you want to tell about your band. Okay, you develop a following for that. The band's not paid well, probably. It's a club, but you do that, and then as you have enough of a network of people, that's when you go ahead and you book the larger venues and know that you've got it together to do that. Now a more delicate question is: at what point does the band practice? And at what point during that practicing, during those rehearsal sessions, at what point do you start to promote the band? And
Right.
this goes back to what we also talked about last week, which was the discipline of practice. My rock band learned 36 to 40 tunes in 3 weeks. And it wasn't that we rehearsed every night, because I wouldn't have had time for that. It was that the band learned the material on their own, came to the rehearsal, used the rehearsal to clean up what they didn't know, or what was wrong. Everyone took it home, and they polished it up and came back, and we worked on 12 tunes a session, and got it done. And then, because they were doing that, I thought, I'm confident to book the band, because I know that they're going to do great because they're doing their homework. And we were talking about before about how some bands don't do their homework and they think that the rehearsal is practice time.
Right.
Okay? So if you have a band with their act together, I would try to be booking that band as soon as they know 36 tunes. 12 tunes an hour, 3 hours. As soon as they have that down,
Okay.
they can start booking. They have to put their best foot forward. Otherwise,
So they would start marketing before they actually get a show?
Yes.
Okay.
How are you going to get the show without marketing?
That's right.
Unless you know someone, but then only that club owner knows you. They're going to ask how many people come to your events, and you're not going to have the slightest clue. And I'm telling you, this is what happens with every single startup band. Every single one goes through this. It's not isolated. Too.
And I would think that they would start marketing as soon as they have the set list that you talked about everywhere, with their parents, with their friends, with every type of free social media, of course free, but maybe some that you have to pay for as well. They should have their electronic press kit. Of course, I could help them with that. And those are the things that they should be doing to market themselves. They
Yes.
have to put themselves out there.
Yes.
Once they're ready, don't hold back. Go for it full force. That's what I would like to see.
Okay, when you say you would like to see.
Yes, I love to see and be a part of it, to photograph it, to write narrative
Are you
about
saying
it.
you like to see the growth of a band? Is that what you're...
I'd like to see the growth of a band, but also the finished product, which is the show.
Okay.
I like to see everything. Now, the bands have not invited me to do any shots at their rehearsals, but I have been to the shows.
You know, that is something that is a new thing with social media. I actually think that there is some merit. I would not have said this 3 or 4 years ago, but I think there is some merit to people coming to the rehearsals even and taking pictures or movie clips of people rehearsing. The public is fascinated about how a band rehearses. Okay? I can't get my head wrapped around that because I'm a musician who's been doing this for 40 years. But there are people who are fascinated by watching a band rehearse or set up
Yes.
before a show. Okay?
But the rehearsal is very important, and the bands really have to take that seriously.
Yes.
For the bands who are fortunate enough to be at rehearsal that is paid, if you're playing around in rehearsal and you're not doing what you came to do, then you're wasting time and someone else's money. For the bands that have rehearsal that are not paid, then they're wasting time, but they're also wasting something else because they're wasting somebody's electricity, somebody's gas, and all of that stuff.
Okay.
For the bands that have rehearsal and they're not doing what they're supposed to do, then I can't see how the show would be that great, because you need to take that rehearsal time to run through your show, make sure everything is tight, so when you get out there, you're ready.
Right. So you are now bringing up an entire issue of the discipline of the rehearsal. You asked me last time about this. What should be the segments of a rehearsal? I guess what I didn't say is that part of the rehearsal is the dress rehearsal for a show. In other words, any band needs to know all their music, but then they also need to know, maybe practice their set list together as a set list, or at least make sure they're ready for the whole show. So that when they come out there, they've done this. Now, you're talking about, Mickey, I think a dress rehearsal is more than just the band in the basement.
Yes.
I almost think they have to they have to be in a room, a stage. Depends on how seasoned they are. But they need to be, a lot of bands, I think, need to find a stage and rehearse their show on a stage, so they know how the movements are, so they know how everything is as they're going along about it.
That would be good.
It's not just the music, it's also the visual performance that you can't do in the basement. So keep that in mind too.
Okay. Why don't we take a break right here, and we'll be back in just a moment.
And we are back, and we've been talking about band in the basement, but let's now take a break from that, because that can go on and on. Mickey, you reviewed how many bands? One band this weekend?
I did review one band this weekend, and that is Rodney Kelly and the Rodney Kelly Jazz Experience.
And what made you go for that band?
Rodney, for one thing, he knows that I like Carlos Santana, and he always plays a Carlos Santana song when he knows that I'm there. But you also played with Carlos Santana.
I was going to say, what is your thing about him? That you obviously have, he's like on your top 10 list of artists. Is that what it is?
I love him. Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
What about it?
I really do.
What about it?
I just like the style.
Okay.
I just like his style. I really enjoy
I
that.
like the fact that it is a type of music that has hits, and meaning hits, meaning ba-da-bop, ba-da-bop-bop-bop-bop, or whatever it is that he has. His signature hits. Da 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 da. Da, 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 da. So in other words, he's playing rock and roll, but he's putting Latin into it,
Yes.
and other things, and it allows the musicians to just go crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's where the energy comes from. To go
It
crazy.
is energy.
In
high
between
energy.
making sure those hits bop 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 ba da bop bop, 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 bop. So that's my take on Santana. So do you want us to play a clip of let's play a clip of
Sure,
this and
sure.
come back to this on the other side.
And this is Rodney Kelly and the Rodney Kelly Jazz Experience.
Tell me what you thought about this, and obviously that's smooth jazz, straight up jazz.
Yes. Rodney Kelly does smooth jazz as well as straight ahead jazz. He's a multi-genre musician.
Okay.
So he can do R&B and different genres.
Okay.
Sometimes he does take requests from the audience.
Yeah.
Rodney Kelly is based out of Baltimore, Maryland. And he says his affiliation with the jazz world is as a musical artist, producer, vocalist, booking agent, educator, clinician, arranger, composer, and fan. Okay. He's been a guitarist for over 35 years. He's played with a couple of national acts as well as numerous local acts.
So who's he played with?
He plays with different bands as well as his own.
Okay.
But basically, he plays with his own band.
Okay.
He also has other musicians to sit in and to come in at different times. Like he has a drummer, Earl Ivy, who was with him most of the time when I've seen him.
Yes.
But there are times when Earl plays with other bands that he may ask another drummer to sit in.
Okay.
Now, over this past weekend, he was at Lexington Market in Baltimore, and he had Barry Brady to sit in with him on lead guitar, as well as he played lead guitar.
Okay. Now, does he have regular band members who he performs with most of the time?
He does. And usually when I see him, he's with Rodney Kelly on lead guitar, of course, and vocals. Okay. Tony Lunsford on bass guitar, Earl Ivy on drums, and Russell Eugene Lyles on saxophone.
Okay. Okay. And obviously, just like in a lot of bands, occasionally you have to sub out somebody.
Yes.
And that's another topic here too. You're in the music business, and for the listeners who don't know this, a lot of times you've got a gig coming up. You have 5 people in the band, and one of them can't make it.
Yeah. They
can't make it. In the big leads, if you're in with a big label, you're signed. You have to be there.
Yes.
Okay. But if you're in an independent band, sometimes as loyal as anyone might be, you have to find people. And what that really does mean is you often have to bring in, plan for substitutes.
That's right.
And then bring in, sometimes with my bands, I've brought in the substitutes to perform where the other players would have been available. Mm-hmm. But you have to make sure your substitutes know the music.
That is correct. And it must sound like they're not a substitute.
They're not a substitute. So there is an investment that you have to make sometimes in making sure your band has all the players you need to be able to perform. It is not as simple as putting the band together, having it, quote, the basement band, as we just spent so much time on, and then everything miraculously works out, and then they're playing out. Because you're going to find that the band manager, who is the only one who really understands how hard it is to manage that band, the only one. You notice I dodged that in the last segment. I talked about the band manager, the only one who really gets this stuff, but I didn't get into that, which we can maybe...
Well, how does the band manager put the musicians in their place for...
First of all, the band manager has to have the discipline in the group.
Yes.
The performers have to have the discipline to listen to the band manager. The band manager has to have the discipline to listen to the band, but the band manager has to make the decisions. Because the band manager is the one who has the permission to spend on the band. Someone's investing in something, okay? So the band manager is usually the one with that discretion, and because of that, they have a little bit more seniority over the other players. They better know what they're doing. The rest of the band is counting on him knowing what he's doing. But I've also seen bands say, "I don't want to play 3 clubs. Give me a good gig." And I'm like, you've got to take your stepping stones.
Yes.
Okay. And then I've seen players being asked about a gig date and saying, "Oh, I can't do it. I'm going on vacation. Can't do it. It's my birthday." I've just seen everything going on. They're serious, but they don't get it. This is a business. Are you going to call in sick? Or are you going to perform? It's not a game. It's a business. So sometimes the more serious players are the ones that are kept in the band. And sometimes if you're not as... People are asking... The band manager will have the right, for example, to ask about commitment. The rest of the band may be thinking about it because they're thinking, well, if this band sticks together, they're weighing the validity of the group. But the band manager has to prove the validity of the group, that the group is worthy of staying together, worthy of playing, and is going to get places. And the band manager has to show the stepping stones the band is taking to make all that happen. It's a bit of an annoying job sometimes, okay? It's a necessary job because band members, the players, don't have any real education except for what they learn on the street as to how bands function. And that is why they think, "Oh, I could do this, but I just booked 2 plane tickets to the islands." And I'm like, maybe you need to go 2 days later because the band just booked a gig for that night. And we've seen friction where they refuse. And then you're thinking, do I keep that band member? This is a business. It's a business, and sometimes you've got to make tough decisions like this.
And the bands also have to realize that the smaller clubs will help build their exposure.
Yes. And if the smaller club knows that the band is promoting themselves at the club, a lot of the good buyers will respect that and will give the band more of an opportunity to perform there. A lot of bands who play in clubs think, "Oh, I'm not being paid enough here to promote this. I'm not going to promote this." I've seen that all the time. And they don't get that they're losing an opportunity to get the name out about themselves.
That's correct.
Okay. Social media is a huge angle in this. If you have a band in the basement and you're getting out of the basement, you've got to be on social media. This is an area that I find that a lot of indie managers are lost on this. I was just in Chicago and talking to managers and club owners who have been in the business for 20 years. And the one part they haven't caught up with is the social media, the Facebook, the Twitter. They don't know how to use that. Now, so they're still attracting the older crowd, but the younger, the millennials, are losing. They're not getting that traction because they're all on social media. You got to be on social media.
That's correct.
Okay, so taking that back to the smaller club environment, you want to be doing the club. You want to be promoting the club, but a flyer is not what I'm talking about. You make a flyer, a PDF flyer, and you post that on Facebook. Okay, so that everyone sees it, and you ask them to friend you, ask them to, to send it to their friends, and that's how you learn that people learn about the music. That's what we did for our rock band. And initially the reaction was, "I want party music," but then they came out to see the band. It had to be that they saw the band live, and that proves to me that the social media is to get the word out. You can't sell a band on social media. You can rally the fan base to come out to see the show on social media and excite them, have them come out, and then if you have to put on a really good show, and then they want to come back and hear you more and more and more and follow you.
That's correct. So that when you get to the larger venue,
yes,
you'll have that fan base.
Yes. Now, in the smaller club, you don't have as much performance room. And on the large stage, you have a large performance room, and you have to know how to use it. Which is why there are 2 things basement bands need to do to get out of the basement properly. One is be ready to know how to use monitors or in-ears, which means that you have to be in a larger room, a stage, where a sound man is setting up the gear and is tuning your in-ears so that you are in the real live location or a real live location to set up the monitors or in-ears. It's very important to figure out a way to get all that done in a larger atmosphere, larger environment. So having a sound man on duty, and you're paying the sound man, because the sound man can't be doing this if he's a band member. Because you can't do a sound check when the lead guitarist is running your board. I mean, it's a joke. And bands don't want to pay for a sound man, but you need your own sound man.
I agree.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I've just seen hokey things go on where bands cut corners, too. Okay? Now, the bands then complain that the clubs cut corners. I'm finding that those clubs that see the bands taking it seriously, take the band seriously.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Okay? So this program is not just for the public to understand the dynamics, but it's for the bands to say, be aware that when you cut a corner, when you don't have your act together, when that sound isn't right, everyone notices, and
That's
you are
right.
just cutting your own neck, because you're not going to get where you want to be, and you're going to blame everybody else for not quite being right.
So would the band manager make sure that the sound person is there, or does the band pick their own sound person? How do you find a quality sound person?
You have to go to the recording union, recording artist union, or you have to. There are a lot of people who know sound. It is an interesting question because musicians, for instance, if a band is looking for musicians, you either have to go around to people you know, or you have to look on social media for them, or look on artistic platforms for them. But it is not a situation where there's one central location for artists to be listed. You have to find the people. That's why this is hard sometimes. You have to find the people who are right for this, and it's not like going onto Monster.com or ZipRecruiter. No. This is where you're trying to find musicians and trying to see if they're right for your band, and then you have to find them. Then you have to audition them. It's a big process, and so is the process of finding the substitute. Remember,
Yes.
I mentioned the substitute. It's all work. It's all work. So now you talked about the sound man. We go to people who we know, ask for referrals for that. We've gone to the Recording Artists Union, the Grammys, and gotten some good resources from them. There are a lot of really good recording artists out there and a lot of really bad ones. But I'll tell you something. Big Shot Records has a division called Chopper Studio One. Which is our, and I did not start this segment in order to pump my division, but it is.
I was going to ask you about it.
It is a fact that we have that, and the purpose behind Chopper Studio One is to have an environment where people can come to us if they want quality music recorded or edited or video. And as far as I'm concerned, my name's on everything that goes in and out. So we want to make sure it's done right. We're reasonable, and we're there to make sure that people have a good product, because it isn't always easy to find that good product out there. Ever since the editing software has become inexpensive, everybody in their neighbor who enjoys music at all has what they call their little studio basement, where they have a little room in their house and they have the computer set up. Now, so a lot of people don't know a thing about music, but they've gone ahead and they think they do because now they have this suite of software and they can tune in. And I'm telling you, folks, there's auto-tune in there. So if a musician can't sing, the equipment makes it so that it sounds like they can sing. Okay, there are click tracks, and so if the drummer can't keep a beat, the drummer can then play to the click track. And have the click track cover for them.
That is good.
And we are out of time. This is Brian Choper with co-host Mickey Hill. We both would like to thank everybody who tuned in to listen to this episode, and we encourage everyone to listen into the next episode, which will take place on December 19th. Until then, thank you all, and enjoy the rest of your day. See you back soon.
Top of the heap, these little town blues are melting away. I'll make a brand new start of it in old New York. If I can make it there,